Sudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narotamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jaya Mudirayet. Nashtaprayeshva Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Utama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavatir Naishtiki Shrinvatam Swakata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana Hridyantasto Hyabadrani Vidunoti Suhrit Satam Pancha kalpa tarubhyascha kripa sindubhyaiva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. We're continuing our reading from the glorious Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Creation, Chapter 14, The Departure of Lord Krishna. And we're on verses 32 and the disappearance of Lord Krishna, pardon. We're on verses 32 through 33. So I'll read along the Sanskrit 3 times to just give a proper pronunciation and a metric. And if anyone would like to repeat afterwards, to repeat the words of Yudhishthir Maharaj 5,000 years ago, then you are warmly invited to do so. Tataiva nuchara shaure shruta devo davadaya sunanda nanda shirshnanya yachanye shatvatarshava apiswaste asate sarve ramakrishna bhujashraya apismaranti kushalam asmakam baddha sauhrida tataiva nuchara shaure shruta devo davadaya Sunandananda Shirshanya Yachanye Shatvatarshaba Apiswasti Asate Sarve Ramakrishna Bhujashraya Apismaranti Kushalam Asmakam Bada Sauhrida Tataivanu Chara Shaure Shruta Devo Davadaya Sunandananda Shirshanya Yachanye Shatvatarshaba Apiswaste asate sarve Ramakrishna bhujashraya Apismaranti kushalam Asmakam badha suhrida.
Actually, I can try, Prabhu.
Okay.
Yeah. तथैवानुचरा शौरे श्रुतद्देवोद्धवादय सुनन्दानन्दशीर्षण्या ये चान्ये शात्वतर्षभा अपि स्वस्तास्ते सर्वे रामकृष्णभुजाश्रया अपि स्मरन्ति कुशलम् अस्माकं बद्धसौहृदा. Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Can I go?
Please.
Hare Krishna. Jai Srila Prabhupada. Tataiva nucharah saurihe srutta devodhavadayaha sunanda nanda senaya echanaya satvatara savaha api saste asate sarvaye Rama Krishna Bhujasreya api smaranti kushalam अस्माकं बद्ध सौहृदः. हरे कृष्ण.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hari Hari.
Tataivanuchara saure sruta devodhavadaya sunandananda shirshanya ye chanye sattvatarshava api swasti asate sarve ramakrishna bhujashraya api smaranti kushalam asmakam baddha sahruda. Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhus.
Hare Krishna. Can I read from?
Please.
तथैवानुचर्य शौर्ये श्रुता देवोऽधवादयः सुनन्दनन्द शीर्षन्या ये चान्या सत्त्वतसभः अपि स्वास्ति असते सर्वे रामकृष्णाबुजाश्रया अपि स्मरन्ति कुशलम् आस्मकं बद्ध सौहृदः. Hare Krishna.
Hari Hari. Thank you all for reading so sweetly. Let's take it to the synonyms and the translation and purport given by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Tata eva, similarly, anuchara, constant companions. This word anuchara is interesting. Anu, we know, means to follow, and it also means very small. So when you think of like the smaller planets that are revolving around the pole star, Druvaloka. Druvaloka is huge. It's one of the Vaikuntha planets that's within this world, and they say that all of the other planets are revolving around it like a chandelier around an axis. So all of these material planets are so small, and they're anu, and they don't compare to vibhu, which is anything spiritual in nature. Chada means movement. So we can think of, anuchada is following in the movements of Shode, Lord Krishna. Another thing that was nice, that reminds me, a devotee was once saying that we shouldn't care so much about astrology, because we're always thinking, oh, well, what planet is affecting me? What's affecting my guna and karma? What planet is influencing me here? He said what we should try to do, instead of trying to balance out the effect of planetary influences, is we should simply take shelter of Goloka Vrindavan, the supreme planet, and have that affect our lives in the same way that we give value to anything else. So anuchara stuck out to me for that, and just understanding it as a word as such helps us understand what constant companions are. These are souls that are caught in the attractive gravitational pull of who Krishna is, always following him. Whatever Krishna does, when he comes down to earth as Krishna, there's one particular soul that comes as Arjuna, and when he came down as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, that soul came as it's one part of the Chaitanya Charitamrita that said as Ramananda Roy. So and Prabhupada explained in the Gita that when Krishna shows up as Ramachandra, it should be understood that Arjuna is there also in a different capacity. So that's anuchara, constant companions of Shode, of Lord Sri Krishna, such as Shrutadev, Uddhava Adhaya, Uddhava and others, Sunanda. And it's worth mentioning here also that Uddhava is the individual that Krishna sent to Vrindavan on his behalf. He had made a promise to his beloved friends that he would return and that they shouldn't worry. And it was based on the promise that Krishna would return that his friends didn't abandon their bodies. But the same way that when we don't eat, or when that which sustains our life is not supporting us, or when we stop eating, or when we lose every loved one in our life, they say that couples that are really attached to each other, they don't often survive the other very long. Like if one couple leaves, or like the husband dies or the wife dies, and it's not long. And I actually saw this with my great-grandfather and great-grandmother. They were married for 70 or 77 years. And my great-grandfather lived up to 103. But he died just a year after my great-grandmother died. So like he could have kept going, and he had these dreams of, oh, she's calling me to go to heaven with her. So when that which we love is taken from us, we think, well, what's the point of this world? I'm working so that I can be with the people that I love. Everything that I'm doing so that I can be with my beloved. Why do the gopis dress up? so they can attract Krishna. Why is Mother Jashoda planting a specific type of grass so that the best cow can eat it, so that the best milk can be made, and so Krishna can drink it? Why are the gopas waking up before Krishna to go to his house so they can dress him and they can get ready to play and run outside? And if Krishna is not in Vrindavan, then what's the point of doing anything? So when Krishna left, he promised that he would return, and it was based on that promise that they maintained their lives. Oh, no, he will come. So there's a still purpose for me living. And when he realized that he had not come for so long, Uddhava is the individual that he sent. So we should understand Uddhava, though he doesn't live in Vrindavan as such, he's a very significant individual in that way, because Krishna saw him as, and Krishna admits this in the Bhagavatam, that he sees Uddhava as his very self. So Uddhava and others, Sunanda, Nanda, which are yes, Shirshanya, other leaders, Ye, all of them, Cha, and Anye, others, Satvata, liberated souls, Rishabha, the best men, Api, if, Swasti, doing well, Asate, are, Sarve, all of them, Rama, Balaram, Krishna, Lord Krishna, Bhuja Ashraya, under the protection of. This word is also interesting because Bhuja, we know from, Shad Bhuja is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu manifesting a six-armed form where that he revealed to Ramananda Roy and Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, of having the two hands holding a kamandalu and a sannyas danda, and then two hands, holding a flute, putting it to his mouth, and two hands that were holding a bow and arrows. So Lord Chaitanya showed that he is non-different from Krishna and Lord Rama. But Bhuja also means branch. And we'll talk about this more later, but I think that this word Bhuja Ashraya is very interesting, because they're saying that they're taking the protection of Krishna's arms. But we can just speak about it now, since we're talking about the words. There's a chapter in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. See if I can switch it over here for you all. The Zoom link is getting in my way. It's called The Trunk, Branches, and Sub-Branches of the Chaitanya Tree. So when I was thinking of Krishna's arms, and I was thinking how, Srila Prabhupada, or in the Brahma Samhita, Brahma describes that he can perform the activities of any, one moment. I'm back. In the Brahma Samhita, it said that he can perform the functions of one limb with any other limb. And Srila Prabhupada explains that there's no difference between the holy name and Krishna himself. So when I see that this word Bhuja can also, means arms, but also means branches, I think of how I think of this chapter where Chaitanya himself is the trunk, and the primary branches are Nityananda, Balaram, and Advaita, and Gadadhar, and Srivas, and the sub branches are devotees like Vrakreshvara Pandit and Ramananda Roy, and the six Goswamis, Narottam Das Thakur, and our parampara itself is the sub branches, and ISKCON itself is seen as one of the branches of the Chaitanya tree. So I think of the ways in which Krishna reaches towards us. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita that I preserve what they have and I carry what they lack. And while we should take Krishna seriously in that, when he says he personally does it, we should also see the other means by which Krishna preserves what we have and carries what we lack, but also reaches out to us through the parampara, through a living tradition of Krishna bhakti, wherein the love of one person is transferred into the heart of another. It's described in the Chaitanya Charitamrita that Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would scream, Hare Krishna, and with tears in his eyes and with so much love, and absorption, and that anyone that heard him say Hare Krishna would themselves turn and say Hare Krishna with the same absorption and the same love, and that we should see that that's what the parampara is. The parampara is the overflowing of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's love into subsequent hearts and subsequent jivas arriving to us. So in that way, we can always take shelter. We can always be Buja Ashrayis as well. We can always take shelter of Krishna. Api, so if also, Smaranti, do remember, Kushalam, welfare, Asmakam, about ourselves, and Badha Sohrida, bound by eternal friendship. So the translation and the purport are given by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. Also, Shrutadev, Uddhava, and others, Nanda, Sunanda, and other leaders of liberated souls who are constant companions of the Lord are protected by Lord Balaram and Krishna. Are they all doing well in their respective functions? Do they, who are all eternally bound in friendship with us, remember our welfare? Purport. The constant companions of Lord Krishna, such as Uddhava, are all liberated souls. And they descended along with Lord Krishna to this material world to fulfill the mission of the Lord. The Pandavas are also liberated souls who descended along with Lord Krishna to serve him in his transcendental pastimes on this earth. As stated in the Bhagavad Gita 4.8, the Lord and his eternal associates, who are also liberated souls like the Lord, come down on this earth at certain intervals. The Lord remembers them all, but his associates, although liberated souls, forget due to their being tatashta shakti, or marginal potency of the Lord. That is the difference between Vishnu Tattva and Jiva Tattva. The Jiva Tattvas are infinitesimal potential particles of the Lord, and therefore they require the protection of the Lord at all times. And to the eternal servitors of the Lord is pleased to give all protection at all times. The liberated souls never, therefore, think themselves as free as the Lord or as powerful as the Lord, but they always seek the protection of the Lord in all circumstances, both in the material world and in the spiritual world. This dependence of the liberated soul is constitutional, for the liberated souls are like sparks of a fire that are able to exhibit the glow of fire along with the fire and not independently. Independently, the glow of the sparks is extinguished, and although the quality of fire or the glowing is there, thus, those who give up the protection of the Lord and become so-called lords themselves out of spiritual ignorance come back again to this material world, even after prolonged tapasya of the severest type. That is the verdict of all Vedic literature. Let's read the verse and the purport, the verse and the translation again. Tataivanu chara shaude, shruta devo dhava vadhaya, sunanda nanda shirshanya, ye chanye sattva tarshaba. Api swasti asate sarve, Rama Krishna bhujashraya, api smaranti kushalam, asmakam badha sauhrida. Also, Shrutadev, Uddhava, and others, Nanda and Sunanda, and other leaders of liberated souls who are constant companions of the Lord are protected by Lord Balaram and Krishna. Are they all doing well in their respective functions? Do they, who are all eternally bound in friendship with us, remember our welfare? So, Mukam karoti vachalam, Pangum langayate girim yat kripa tamaham bande, Shri Guru dinataranam. By the mercy of the spiritual master, a lame man can cross mountains and a mute man can speak eloquently. I therefore offer him my most respectful obeisances. Om Jnana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkest ignorance, but my spiritual master is opening my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge, and I offer him my respectful obeisances. Vanchakalpa tarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyaivacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. I offer my respectful obeisances unto all the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord who are exactly like desire trees, capable of satisfying the desires of all living entities. They are very merciful to the fallen and conditioned souls. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare. It's so nice to be with you all today. Happy Amalaki Ekadasi. And also happy week before Gaura Purnima, the most blessed event. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak on Srimad Bhagavatam this morning with you all. So, Srila Prabhupada mentions liberated souls in the very beginning. So he says that the constant companions of Lord Krishna, such as Uddhava, are all liberated souls. In the Atmarama verse that Lord Chaitanya was explaining to Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya and Sanatana Goswami, he explains that liberated souls are those who Atmarama, they derive pleasure in seeking the self. Atma can be translated as many things, but ultimately it means those who are really seeking themselves. And a person who is liberated is a person who is free from the conception of the material self. But there are different stages even of liberation. So just recognizing oneself as not the material body is one part of liberation, but it's simply a negative conception of the material identity. The positive conception of the spiritual identity is Jivera Swarupa Hoy Krishnera Nityadas, that I am always a part of Krishna, and I am always a servant of Krishna in all circumstances. Aham Brahmasmi, that I recognize that I'm simply spiritual. It doesn't give me any positive information about what I am. Just knowing that I'm spiritual simply means I'm not material. But without the mercy of Krishna to reveal what is happening or what is the occupation of the spiritual spark, there's every possibility of falling down, which Srila Prabhupada mentions here in the very end. Thus, those who give up the protection of the Lord and become so-called lords themselves out of spiritual ignorance, which is interesting because we consider ignorance a material thing, but here it's saying out of spiritual ignorance, come back again to this material world, even after prolonged tapasya of the severest type. When I read prolonged tapasya of the severest type, I think of Hiranyakashipu and how when Brahma approached him, he said, no one has ever done what you did, and henceforth, no one will ever do what you have done. So you have certainly got my attention. What would you like? And we know what Hiranyakashipu asked for, but it's very interesting that a 5-year-old boy who had never stood up on one toe, who had never held his breath for a very long time, whose body wasn't consumed by fire ants, who didn't, produce heat to distract or to disrupt the affairs of the entire universe, but who simply heard and chanted and instructed others and remembered and saw themselves as dependent on Krishna, defeated this person that performed the severest types of austerities. So bhakti is so potent that bhakti is potent because it's real. It connects the bhakta with Bhagavan through bhakti, whereas one can see austerity is simply a heightened stage of disconnection from Krishna. It's like a a severe austerity to attain a mystic perfection is in a sense just a challenge to who Krishna is. It's getting further away from the point of humility, of total dependence. It's trying to rely more on the material nature and more on Krishna's powers without Krishna himself. You know, why do I need prapti? Why do I need to produce an apple anywhere? You know, Krishna has already produced apples anywhere. Let me proactively engage in walking towards a tree so that I can pull it and bring it to Krishna. Why have Krishna serve me anymore? Yesterday, a devotee was telling me that it's not proper to have a kavacha hanging from a tulsi mala because we don't want to take service from tulsi. And I was thinking of all the ways that that's applicable as well. We don't want to take service from the guru. Why should the guru work harder to bring us a material enjoyment? But why should the guru please our senses or attend to me? When am I going to think of how can I please the guru's senses? You know, Krishna is already doing so much by uplifting us, but when am I going to finally reverse the tide? When will I stop seeing Krishna as my servant and stop asking, will Krishna protect me? Krishna, make my life well. Krishna, you know, make me happy. When will I start praying to Srimati Radharani? Let me help Krishna. Let me help bring you to Krishna. Let me help do something. Tapasya is just another way of saying I want Krishna to serve me. I want his power without him. So this is very nice, but Prabhupada gives us the assurance that we don't have to worry about liberation. He says that for us, liberation happens automatically. We don't have to we don't have to intellectualize too much our position, but that by performing the process of devotional service, liberation will happen automatically. By reaching towards Krishna, automatically everything that comes before Krishna will occur. But I want to speak about this point for a minute because a devotee told me recently that we can't superimpose Krishna consciousness on unconsciousness, which means that but when we approach Krishna, certain things are going to happen. So when we approach Krishna, the last verse of the Sri Shikshashtakam, Sri Krishna Chaitanya, in the mood and in the voice of Srimati Radharani herself, says, Ashlishava padaratam pinashtumam adarshanam marmahatam karotuva yata tatava vidadatu lampato mat prananatastu sa eva na para. In that verse, Krishna says that, or Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in the mood of a devotee says that you may break my heart by not appearing before me or by embracing me too toughly. It's normal for us, like Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, to approach him because we are disinterested in the world. Artartha, those who are suffering. However, our distaste of the world, our avoiding suffering is not enough to bring us to Krishna. It's enough to get us to turn away from the world, but it's not enough to keep us going away from the world towards whatever is beyond the world, which is Goloka Vrindavan. So what does this mean practically? What it means practically is that we will have to abandon attachment and aversion, which Krishna says are stumbling blocks to spiritual life. Our aversion for suffering is going to be an obstacle because there is also suffering in the spiritual world. I mean, when we started the class, we were mentioning how the gopis were keeping their lives together because Krishna promised. There was a lot of suffering when they showed up after Krishna played the flute and he said, well, you should go back home. There was a lot of suffering there. And there was a lot of suffering when they were asked to marry somebody else that wasn't Krishna. And there's a lot of suffering every day when Krishna leaves to go to the pasturing grounds and he doesn't go with the gopis. And there's a lot of suffering in the morning when they have to separate and pretend like they have lives apart from each other. There's a lot of suffering for the sakhas. Some of them can't sleep. They can't close their eyes because they're just like trembling in missing Krishna. And so the sakhas are staying up all night just thinking Krishna, 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 Krishna. So if we don't develop at least the attitude of shanti, of peace, which is the attitude that is requisite before dasya ras, we won't be able to move forward. And so it's good that we develop some distaste for the material world. It's good that we developed a disinterest in material suffering. But if we don't heal that, then our motivation to avoid suffering will keep us from progressing in spiritual life. So why I mention this is because when I said that we had to approach Krishna, that everything else that would happen before it automatically, it means that Krishna will show us some obstacles that are standing in the way of getting before him. If we've been chanting for any duration of time, for 5, 10, I've been chanting for over a decade, but when we chant for 15 or 20, and I noticed that there are some difficulties that are recurring in my life. And what that means is that there is some offense to the holy name that is being committed, either disobedience to the spiritual master, not having full faith that the holy name is actually everything that I'm looking for in the world, thinking that chanting is a fruitive process. I'm chanting because I want something else. I'm chanting because I want to be happy in my relationships. I'm chanting because I want to deserve a lot of money or a good promotion. I'm chanting because I want to be the most intelligent devotee. So if I'm chanting for any other reason but developing prema, that's also an offense. But I'll admit to you that the last one might be the most difficult. Maintaining a material attachment, even after having received so many instructions on the matter. So how often do we get into a material difficulty and not reach for our japa bags and say, well, Hare Krishna, the world is meant to fall apart. You told me, Dukalayama Shashvatam, it's temporary and it's impermanent. Why? What surprise do I have left? So if now this is an important thing. We can't bypass our material attachments. You know, a lot of us grew up with perhaps parents that were not present in the way that we wanted them to. Perhaps we grew up as not the most popular kids in school as we would have wanted to be. Perhaps as adults, we are not becoming the successful material people that we wanted to be. And so there is something that is unsatisfied. And it is not Krishna's responsibility to give that all to us before we can understand that our relationship with him is significant. It's our relationship to understand I am holding myself back from a significant relationship. Somebody loves me, and I am more interested in something else than the love that this person has. It's not Krishna's job to convince me more than he has that he loves me. What else could Krishna do? I exist, for one. We're all eternal personalities that are related to Krishna forever. And that's an amazing thing, that we've been chosen to be part of Krishna's reality always. Krishna has also come down to earth to speak the Bhagavad Gita. He's come down in Advaitam, Achyutam, Anadi, Ananta Rupam, unlimited, uncountable forms. And in the Bhagavad Gita, Prabhupada explains that Krishna shows up in every form of the animal kingdom. So when we were flies that were, going around poop, there was one, Parameshvara fly, one like very supreme fly was like, let me show you guys like the proper way to fly around and find like the most exquisite things to eat. And maybe led us all to like a dropping of prasad somewhere. And then when we graduated in that form, there was a supreme form of Krishna as a fish or a dandelion. Or Krishna has been guiding us in all forms of life until we've arrived at this point, this human form of life, where Krishna is showing up as a guru. Sakshad Dharitvena Samasta Shastraya. He's shown up as our spiritual master. He's shown up as the community of Vaishnavas himself. He's shown up as the Srimad Bhagavatam. He's shown up as Chaitya within the heart. And he's also showing up as our mind, which I try to remember sometimes. But you know how Krishna said, Arjuna admits, oh, the mind is so hard to control. It's easier to control the wind than it is the mind. And then Krishna like reveals in the Bhagavad Gita later, it's like, oh yeah, of material elements, I am the mind. Which would make sense, like why it's the most difficult to, who can control Krishna? Bhaktas. Bhaktas can. So the responsibility falls to us of looking back at those things. Krishna Pita, Krishna Mata, Krishna Dana Prana. We know now that Krishna is actually my father. Krishna is actually my mother. Krishna is Dana Prana. So that soul that showed up and didn't do the best job as a father, that's not my supreme father. That's a jiva that did their best. That jiva that showed up as a mother, that I perhaps didn't have the best relationship, that's another jiva that was just doing their best. But what I can do is I can sit down and have a conversation and say that, and it doesn't need to be with the actual individual, but I can just imagine like, you did your best and perhaps you didn't show up in the way that I would have liked, but now my guru has told me who my real father is. And so now I lift the responsibility from you for, I free you of this responsibility of this like constant nagging that you need to be the father that I wanted, or you need to be the mother that I wanted, or Dana Prana, that anything else in the world needs to be what I needed. I relieve all of it from its heavy and impossible duty of making me happy, because now I've found Krishna Mata, Krishna Pita, Krishna Dana Prana. Now I found my real father. I found my real mother, and I found the real treasure of my life. But that is internal work. And that's what the devotee meant when she said that we cannot superimpose Krishna consciousness on top of unconsciousness. Because in another sense, if we're aspiring for the mood of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who will still see Krishna as his worshipable Lord, even if Krishna breaks his heart, then we're going to have to learn to tolerate when our wife or our husband or our friends break our heart. If we can't tolerate when they break our heart by not being present, how will we even begin to handle the heart that we're required to have, that Krishna is going to be able to break because it belongs to him? So this is a glorious thing. It's glorious that we're here in the material world. It's glorious that we have an opportunity to really take our times and to take steps. Pada, to take the necessary steps to reach Krishna, and that Krishna is not robbing us of the opportunity to do so. I struggle with this sometimes, that when Srila Prabhupada said in the Nectar of Devotion, actually Krishna consciousness is so powerful that once begun, the process will forcibly drag a devotee to the end. I like that. When I heard that, I was like, oh, I like this very much, because in my material life, everything was happening automatic. I would see something, I would get attracted, I would follow it, and then I would get angry, and everything was happening automatically. And now Prabhupada is telling me that spiritual life will also be automatic. I like this very much. I like this very much because I don't need to have any responsibility here. The problem with that is that everything becomes either Krishna's fault or Maya's fault. Well, it's Maya that I'm attracted. It's Maya's fault that I'm attracted to Maya, and it's Krishna's fault that I'm not attracted to him. But the problem with that is that it's an incorrect view of the world because we have free will. However, we have to understand what our free will is limited to. Daivihi esha gunamai mama maya duratyaya mamevaye prapadyante mayam taram tarantite mayam etam tarantite. Our free will is limited to our voluntary surrender to Krishna, to Daivi Prakriti, to Srimati Radharani through her agents. And this is what Prabhupada is saying in the purport. The Lord remembers them all, but his associates, although liberated souls, forget due to their being Tatashta Shakti. But the Jiva Tattvas are infinitesimal potential particles of the Lord, and therefore they require the protection of the Lord at all times. That is our free will, and that is our responsibility. But then after that, Krishna is doing everything. There's a verse. Give me 1 second. There's a devotee here that quoted this verse. I think it's chapter 9, verse 17. Which is interesting because this is a verse where Krishna says, Pitaham asya jagato. I am the father of this universe, the mother. So this is a little bit of the purport that I would like to read to everyone. If you're interested in following along, it's Bhagavad Gita, verse 9, chapter 17. Here it is. In the material existence, we create different relationships with different living entities who are nothing but Krishna's marginal energy. Under the creation of Prakriti, some of them appear as our father, mother, grandfather, creator, etc., but actually they are parts of and parcels of Krishna. As such, these living entities who appear to be our father, mother, etc., are nothing but Krishna. In this verse, the word datta means creator. Not only are our father and mother parts and parcels of Krishna, but the creator, grandmother, and grandfather, etc., are also Krishna. Actually, any living entity being part and parcel of Krishna is Krishna. What that means is that our responsibility is to surrender to Krishna. The ability to know who Krishna is Krishna's mercy. The ability to be able to surrender to Krishna is a potency of Krishna. It's bhakti shakti. What happens after we surrender is strength given by Nityananda Balaram. The service that we are engaged in, following in one of the residents of Goloka Vrindavan, is their mercy, and they are all sheltered under Krishna. So actually, Vasudeva Sarvamiti. Actually, everything is Vasudev. But that doesn't mean that it's automatic in the sense that I have no part in Krishna's life. I have a part in Krishna's life, and it's to be connected with him. That's my part. It's not that, oh, it's automatic. We should not be like Dhritarashtra. When Vidura was trying to talk Dhritarashtra, it's like, oh, you should get out of this kingdom. You should go, or you should give up the kingdom to actually the Pandavas who are the rightful heirs. Dhritarashtra, like Hiranyakashipu, so knowledgeable in Shastra, was using it in the wrong ways. Oh, well, what can I do? I am a jiva, affected by the 3 modes of nature, and we are all subject to Krishna's control. Alas, there is very little that I can do to avoid this role that I have been assigned as Krishna, by Krishna. So he was thinking about things in that type of automatic way. Oh, though, let me just surrender to the modes of nature. But the devotees are never like that. Prabhupada never said, well, let's just see what happens. Prabhupada never said, well, we'll just wait and see. Let's see what Krishna wants. Prabhupada was deciding things all the time. And so are all the other devotees. They're always coming up with plans. Nrsimhananda Brahmachari, he's on the calendar today for March. and it's showing him meditating. Nobody asked him to do that. Nobody asked him to meditate and create a path for Lord Chaitanya to walk on. The last thing that I'd like to mention is this word constitutional. In the paragraph, Srila Prabhupada says this dependence of the liberated soul is constitutional. A really nice way to read Srila Prabhupada is to look at his purports and to see what is Srila Prabhupada quoting here. Sometimes Srila Prabhupada will directly quote Shastra but not cite it, but he'll show that he's assimilated the knowledge and he's put it in his own words. So this sentence, this dependence on the liberated soul is constitutional, reminds me of what Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur wrote in his Harinam Chintamani, but he also wrote it in a text called Vaishnaveda Swarupa Utatashta Lakshana. So I'd like to read just a little bit of it. I won't read the Bengali. I'll spare you, but I'll read the translation, which is, Vaishnavas are characterized by these 26 lakshanas. Among these qualities, Krishnaika Sharana, surrendered solely to Krishna, is the Swarupa Lakshana of a Vaishnava. The other qualities are Tatashta Lakshanas, which is marginal or external. It is necessary to deliberate a little as to why surrender at the feet of Sri Krishna is the Swarupa Lakshana. So this is actually really nice and encouraging to all of us. Sometimes we read Shastra and we see how tolerant a devotee is, or how merciful a devotee is, or how rich a devotee is, or beautiful, or well-versed. Bhaktivinoda Thakur is saying that these are tatashta lakshana. These are external characteristics of the devotee that manifest when Krishna desires. What we should be concerned with is the Swarupa Lakshana, which is the constitutional, inherent, innermost, real, natural, characteristic. And what is that? Surrender to Krishna. So this is a wonderful invitation for us to withdraw our view from the external world. I would like to make I have not been given any money to endorse this, but this book, Finding the Gap by Sukavaha Prabhu, is very wonderful. It talks about the inner work that devotees can do to practice a process of healing. And something that she said in the book, which has been transformational for me, is the book takes the form of a dialogue between two devotees who are married and one devotee who's kind of serving as their guide. And in one part, one devotee says, I'm losing my motivation because I was so attracted to being a pure devotee. And after so long, I'm still so far away. And it's really disencouraging. And I kind of feel like giving up, or I'm losing my faith because I don't know if the process works. Why am I still struggling so much? And this guide says, what difference does your being able to serve, or what difference does you being a pure devotee make regarding your ability to serve Krishna or not? In other words, what does it matter how pure you are, whether or not you can listen to Krishna Katha, whether or not you can chant japa? Do you need to be a pure devotee to sit in Bhagavatam? Do you need to be a pure devotee to chant japa, to struggle for Krishna? Do we need to be a pure devotee to just remember him? And that was just transformational for me, because I realized it's possible that I will always look towards the future at some higher degree of purity and not realize that I have everything that I need to be happy in my life right now. I have an opportunity to listen to Bhagavatam in an assembly of devotees. I have an opportunity to speak about Krishna given to me by the devotees. I have an instruction by my guru to chant a minimum of 16 rounds that I can do joyously, that I can do as it's not even a chore anymore. I can do it as an opportunity to reciprocate the love that Krishna has given to me. It's a wonderful thing. It's a great and it's an amazing thing. And let the Tatashta Lakshanas come whenever Krishna wants me to actually manifest humility. Let that come when it wants. If Krishna ever wants me to not struggle in the material world and have some kind of material opulence, let that happen. If he wants me to be compassionate, and if he wants to give me an opportunity to really be concerned for the welfare and the suffering of others, then let that happen in my heart. But my concern is my Swarupa Lakshana. My concern is my responsibility, which is let me surrender to Krishna. Let me do that now with my free will. So these are some things that came to mind. If anyone has any corrections to what I said, or would like to add some questions or comments, please feel free to do so now. Thank you so much for your attention. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Danaraja Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Nice to see you in your new residence. You're in New Vrindavan now?
Yes, sir.
How sorry, I'm detracting from the lecture.
Oh, that's fine.
But you're doing well?
Yes, I'm happy to be here today.
Nice. Thank you very much. Wide-ranging lecture, covering lots of topics, which is nice, and mind expanding. So there are devotees on this lecture who are listening. So dear devotees, if you have questions, please address them. Or if you have additions, you can add that as well, or questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. It is very wonderful class. Thank you very much. We can able to go to Krishna through bhakti only. That is very important. But without bhakti, nobody can go to Krishna, reach the Krishna. And Krishna will see everything to save us. He is the creator and he is the everything for human and any create any living body or animal, everything. But we have some knowledge. Human beings have knowledge. That is, they have to use that. How this birth has came, and what is the necessity of this birth, and what we can do, and what we cannot do. Always behind of us, Krishna is there. They have to think, and you narrated very well that surrendering Krishna, 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 Krishna. Automatically, we will chant Krishna Nama. It will save us in every aspect. That means our karma also there. Previous birth karma and this birth karma and everything is there. Even though we have hope and we have the ultimate goal is only the Krishna, surrendering his foot. That is my understanding.
Thank you so much, Prabhu. That was very well said. Thank you.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Thank you so much, as always, for your wonderful lecture. Very enlightening. I really liked how you started off with, I think I joined a bit late, but then you were describing the glories of gopis and Yashoda Maya. And then I liked the way you explained the term Bhuja Ashraya, what it can mean. You also so many different topics, Prabhu. Very enlightening as always. And finally, what you said about Swarupa Shakti and Tatastha Shakti, all that was really nice and very enlightening. Thank you so much again, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
I should have Prabhupada. Thank you, Prabhu. Yeah, it's a big relief, right? We don't have to worry about the external things. It's like a big load off our shoulders. Like all I have to do is surrender. Very, very nice.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, I guess we'll go ahead and end. Thank you, Danaraj Prabhu, for taking time. I know you're 3 hours ahead of us, so you're probably busy for the Sunday feast. Sunday feast is in the evening at Nivandavan.
It's around 1:30.
Oh, okay, so you probably have to get up and get into position to do your services. Are you serving as a teacher? I think that's what you told me you would be doing.
Yes, sir.
There. How big is the community in Vrindavan?
Everyone's hibernating now, so it's hard to get a good count, but there's like around 150. There's
150
like like
150
150
families or
devotees.
150 devotees?
There's like around 150 devotees, like right now. Yeah.
That's nice.
Yeah, it's a good number. It's 58 Prabhupada disciples that live here.
And how many youth is the school?
My class has 5 students in it.
Oh, nice. So you can be like very personal with them rather than one big thing. So you're liking teaching? I know you have that scholarly bent.
I'm very excited. Yeah, I'm very grateful for it.
Good. Okay, we'll let you go for your service. Thank you for taking time from across the country to speak to us. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Prabhuji. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
All glories to your service. Hare Krishna, Master. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhu.